Okay, so we're ready to go.
You in?
Yeah, well, so would everybody please mute their microphones except Robert? Robert, over to you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Wise, and I'm going to talk to you this afternoon about, my title is So You Want to Be in Pictures. My background is that I am a retired community pharmacist. I was a pharmacist for close on 50 years. And after I sold my shops, I did locums. And I did a long-term locum in Abbots Langley, up in Hertfordshire. And it was a quiet little shop. And one day, a young lady came in and said to me, could I supply a first aid box? And I said, yes, certainly. How many for how many?
Are you in?
So she...
Well, I'm going to share mine with you.
I beg your pardon?
Sorry, it was somebody who hadn't muted.
Do you want me to start again?
No, it's okay.
All right. Anyway, I asked her how many people this first aid box was for, and she said 250. And I said, what is this? And she said, well, it happens to be for Leavesden Studios. So I knew about Leavesden Studios, and there wasn't much going on there. And I said, yeah, well, I can do that. How many, do you need one box? She said, no, I need 6. So she explained that they were starting film production at Leavesden Studios. Leavesden used to be the old Rolls-Royce factory. And I telephoned the manufacturer, and they produced these boxes for me, and I took them up to Leavesden, and they were very happy with the service, and they used them, and I went away. I then received a phone call asking me to go to Leavesden Studios to go to talk to them. And I went there, and they said, have you ever heard of Star Wars? So I said, well, I've read about it. They said, well, we're starting production of Star Wars #1 at Leavesden Studios, and we would like you to supply any medications that we use when we go out on location. Now they use Morocco a lot for the locations. Would you like to do it? And I said, yes, I'll do it. And that's how it started. Well, I must tell you that Star Wars took over my life. Every day they required different medications. Obviously, all medications were under the supervision of a doctor. So I got, so it was all done by prescriptions and all recorded. So we never had any problems. And they used to order masses of stuff, absolutely masses of it. And of course, anything in the films business, their crisis always happens 5 minutes before they tell you that there's a crisis. So the phone was constantly going, and I managed to keep doing, meeting their deadlines, getting any special stuff that they needed, maybe for special effects, and supplying to them, and they seemed very happy. And when I started, of course, the gentleman whose shop I was doing the local for, he didn't want any part of it. So I said, well, I will, he said, no, there's too much money involved. I said, well, I'll do it on my own, if you don't mind. I'll use your premises. I'll give you if you like, a rent, and if you don't mind, I'll run your shop and I'll do this as well. And so he was quite happy with the setup. And as I say, it took over my whole life. Even when I was at home at night, they used to phone me to ask me to get some other products for them, and I had to get them. And they used to say, "Can you get it to Heathrow Airport by a certain time on a certain day because the plane is leaving?" And it was absolute masses. And I managed it very well. It did creak a bit at the time, and at the end of the film, which took about a month to do, they have a wrap party, and where they invite all the people who have been involved in the film to a party, which was held at Leavesden Studios. Now, this is a party that I've never been to. My wife and I have never been to a party like it. I don't suppose we'll ever go to a party like it again. There were people from all the films, the technicians, cameramen, anybody who worked at Leavesden Studios were invited. And they brought in food from all over the world, even brought in kosher food on a separate stand, so we weren't left out. They introduced a fun fair and anything you wanted. And then they said, there is dancing in the hangar next door if you wish to go in. But they forgot to tell us that what they imported in was the band called the Eagles from California. And they were the #1 rock band in America at the time. Well, you were paralyzed with the sound. You couldn't dance because the noise was incredible. And there were model planes flying all over the place. And for those of you that have seen Star Wars, I imagine most people have, R2-D2 was there, and he was following me around. And when I went up to the bar, a voice would say, "Can you get me a drink?" And what it was being radio controlled from the balcony upstairs. And he was doing this to everybody, following you around. And it was an incredible, incredible party. And in fact, at the time, when we were invited to the party, we said to our children, we're going to this party. We said, we'll be there about an hour, show our faces. It starts at about 8:30, and then we'll come home. Well, we got there for 8 o'clock, parked the car, no problem, and we arrived home just after 6 o'clock the following morning. It was absolutely incredible. None of the stars of the film were there. They've gone. They'd gone home, back to America. But it was an incredible, incredible film. And at the end of the time, when they said they were moving out, they said that another film was coming in. And I said, okay. Now, the system there is, if you have worked for them and you have performed satisfactorily, they recommend the next company to you. You don't go to them and say, can I supply you? Because they don't want to know. They will take you on recommendation. And so the next film came in, and it was a quiet one, and that was quite good. And I was doing, it was pretty successful. And I went up onto the set a few times, and I must tell you that the set, when you get there, nothing seems to be happening because everybody's standing around. And then somebody says keep quiet, and then they do what they've got to do, and then they stop, and that's it again. And it seems to go on interminable. It doesn't seem to be continuous, but they put it all together at the end of the film, and it seems to work very well, and they're all get blockbusters. And I had these films, and I did the next one that I did after that was the Mummy, and that was incredible from the special effects. And personally, I didn't like the film, but the special effects boys were amazing what they can do. And the trouble is, when I was watching the film afterwards, I used to say, "Oh no, it didn't happen like that," because I supplied the cream, or I supplied this, and it didn't actually happen. So for me, I had an insight of it, and I quite enjoyed it. And I went one day. I went into work very early, and the phone went, and a voice from a distance said to me, "Is that Robert?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "This is Black Hawk Down." I said, "Well, I'm very sorry, I've never heard of you." And I said, "Sorry." So I put the phone down. And he rang back again, the same thing. I said, "No, I'm very sorry. I don't know who you are." So he said, "Well, we're Black Hawk Down." I said, "Well, could you tell me where you are?" He said, "We're in Morocco. We're making a film." So I said, "Fine, yes, that's fine." I said, "Look, I wasn't very keen. I mean, somebody phoning me early in the morning, asking me to supply stuff, which I didn't know anything about, and I didn't know who they were. So I said to him, would you mind sending me a fax of your requirements? I'll look at it and I'll let you know if I want to do it." Well, 22 pages later, the fax stopped working, and it was absolutely massive. So then he rang me and he said, "Have you got the fax?" I said, "Yes, and it will be coming." And I got one of my girls to work with me and phoned up and got all the stuff. Now, a lot of the medications, they use a lot of antidiarrheal medicine because the food out there and everything else is pretty rotten. And I got masses of this stuff all packed up, and they use in these when they're on location, they use a lot of people from the Moroccan army, and they're the biggest thieves in the world. They steal as much as they possibly can. So they were always phoning up for replacements, and could I put it on the next plane out and get it out to them? And I used to do that, and I had the suntan. They used to use a lot of suntan preparations, and the ones that we buy normally are not very good. They're not strong enough. But I was in touch with a company, and they're called NOAD, and they do high factors. And I got a tie up with them. They were very helpful. So we were able to keep going, and I sent this all out to Morocco, to Black Hawk Down, and Lydia said to me, "Where do I post the bill to?" And I said, "I've forgotten to ask." So I sent out about £8,000 to £10,000 worth of goods, and I didn't have an address. So it looked like there was a divorce pending. However, I then got a phone call to say, you haven't sent us your invoice with your with, and you don't know where to send it. So I said, no, they said, we'll send it to our office in New York, and which I did, and they paid immediately, and they were very, very good. And I didn't attach much importance to this film until such time as I was sitting watching television, and one of the stars was Kevin Spacey, and he was talking, he said, oh yes, the next film, there's a film that's coming out, and it's up for an Oscar, is Black Hawk Down. I nearly fell off the chair. I couldn't believe it. However, it was a very good film, and it's about a helicopter that gets shot down in Iraq and the rescue mission to recover the crew and one of the secret weapons that they had aboard. And it was an excellent film, and they were very good to work with. And then they moved on, and then I then had a phone call to say, could I be on standby for Notting Hill? And I said, yes. That was Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant. But I didn't have to go down there. But one day, Julia Roberts was not very well. She had bronchitis, and I made up her prescription very late at night, and I sent it down, and she very kindly sent me a photograph, a signed photograph, thanking me for sending the medication, which I've got, and it's one of my prized possessions. And that was very good. And I moved on to another film called Troy. Richard Harris was in that. Now, he wasn't a very well man, and he was very unwell, and they were making the film out in Cyprus, and I got a phone call. He needed some special medication, and the doctor cleared it, and he said, can you get it for me? It was quite expensive, and I sent it out to them, and yeah, we got it. We got him through it. I got a very nice letter thanking me because he got through the film. And then after that, he made very little because he was a well man. And he only made one lot of films after that, which I'll come on to. And that's how it went. And it was working quite well. It's not continuous. You may have a break of a month or so, because they don't always keep going into Leavesden, or they may be out on on location. A lot of it is location work. And then after a quiet period, I was to go back to Leavesden Studios again to see them. And that's said to me, have you heard of or have you read the Harry Potter? It's old for Harry Potter, but I will start reading them. And they said to me, we're going to, the franchise is coming from the studios, and we're going to make them here. And we will like you to supply location. Well, as I said, Star Wars took over my life, and Harry Potter took over the rest of my life. Unbelievable, and very clever. A very clever film, and then during the course of the film, so they made about 3 or 4. Lydia and I were invited to the studio, and we were given a conducted tour of our own, just us, to go round the set and to have a look at every. Sorry, excuse me. Keep quiet. To have a look at the set and to see what was being done. So we went, we saw where he lived as a little boy, Harry Potter, and then we walked through Dignam Alley. We went into the shop where he bought his wand, and we went into the we went into the school, and we went up. In Harry Potter, there's a moving staircase. We walked up that staircase, and it does move, and it's very, very clever how it's done. We went into the main school hall and saw how it was all arranged, and it's all very, very clever, very authentic, and you could imagine it. You can imagine yourself being back at school. We went into his school classroom, and I was able to sit at his desk, and then one of the things that I was given, I was allowed to sit in Professor Dumbledore's chair. Not many people get to do that, and that was Richard Harris, and then unfortunately he passed away. But I sat in that chair, and then we were taken all over and shown quite a few of the things that they do, and how they do it, the special effects, and they're very, 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 very clever, and you do appreciate them. We weren't allowed on the set. There was filming, but we weren't allowed on the set. All the Harry Potter sets are closed, so no members of the public, even on the tours they operate now, will see what's going on, because it will spoil the illusion. And I did 5 of those films, and then I unfortunately my eyesight was not very good at the time, so I said I was retiring, and I was working and the other gentleman took it over, and they were very good, and so we saw all of that, and in total, I was involved in 22 films, and some were small, and I can't remember them all, but the big ones were obviously Star Wars and the Harry Potter films, and I found the work very, very interesting, and they were very nice and very, very professional, and yeah, when you look at it and you think, oh yes, you'd like to be part of it, but actually the stars, they're only there for a very short time, because they do their bit and then they go away. All the technicians, the cameramen and the lighting crews, they're always around, and they do a lot of work without the stars being there. And I saw them working, and it's very, very interesting. But so that's how I got into the film unit and the film business, and I really I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've always remembered it, because it was if you like, the highlight of my career as a pharmacist to remember, and so I wasn't the modern day Errol Flynn. I'm not built that way, and I don't look like him anyway. And but I certainly enjoyed my time in pictures, and that I can tell you is my story.
How did you?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. But I remember you talking previously for us, and I wonder how you tied up all of your time in pictures with the stuff that you did for Buckingham Palace.
Well, Buckingham Palace was down in when I had a shop in the Strand. Lydia and I, we originally started with a shop in North London in Upper Holloway, Hornsey Road actually, it's still there. And we sold that, and I was looking for something to do, and somebody that I knew had a very small group called the Mayfair Pharmacy Group, and the smallest shop in his group was in the Strand. It was in Buckingham Arcade, right next door to Charing. And so I bought that shop, and it was a very rundown shop. It wasn't doing very lot. So I took it over, and fortunately, Prince Charles decided to get married to Princess Diana, and he did me a favour. I owe him a lot actually, because with all the tourists and everything else, the shop really took off. And one interesting thing, one day, quite a funny story. I always say I'm the only person that did this. I had a phone call one day when it was quite a busy shop in the lunch hour, and and the young lady said, "Good morning, Clarence House." And I said, "I'm very sorry, but there's nobody of that name here. You should have to try another number," because there was an office above us. So, and I hung up. And then she rang again. And I said, "No, I'm sorry, you must ring this other number, because there's a lot of people working in this building." And I hung up. And I had a gentleman working for me, and he was very good. And he said, "You look very perplexed." I said, "Somebody keeps ringing up and asking for Clarence House." He said, "Sir," and he always called me sir. He said, "Sir, Clarence House, it's only up the road." I went, "Oh my God." Anyway, she phoned back, and she said, this young lady, she was very kind. She said to me, "Before you hang up, sir, this is the residence of Her Majesty the Queen Mother." And I said, "I think you phoned up to tell me I've just thrown away my knighthood." And she said, "Yes, I think so. Can I give you a small order?" Because we did work for the staff to supply their medication, not for the royal family, but to the staff of Clarence House. So I phoned to give me a small order. But in the meantime, I can say I was the only person who's ever hung up on the Queen Mother. But the Strand was an interesting shop, lovely to work in, met very many interesting people, actors, and a lot of actors, because we were in the theatre land, and very interesting. As a matter of fact, I mean, Lydia's sitting here, and I will tell you that one day she said to me, she was talking to a gentleman, a cleric, and he was very nice, and she said to me, after he left, she said, "That must have been the local vicar." I said, "No, try the Archbishop of Canterbury, it was Lord Rumsey." And she said, "She was the local vicar." So, you know, we had a lot of fun, because sometimes you didn't recognise the people, and then afterwards they went out, and you thought, "Oh, I know him," and yeah, you know, and then you got people coming in. I one day had top and I had to make it up. And then I looked at him. I thought, "I know you. Where do I know this face from?" Then I looked at the description, and then I realised who it was. And a very nice man. And they're all the same. They're like the rest of us. If you cut them, they bleed. You know, they're all very nice, and they don't mind being just ordinary people. And that's every, you know, wherever with them, haven't made a really big fuss of them, just so them are ordinary people, and then they can put up and they come back again. So it's very interesting. We were in the Strand for 9 years, and then we moved
Robert, can I interrupt? Unfortunately,
somewhere.
the line is very bad from where you are, and you keep freezing. I think
I'm sorry.
well, it's not your fault. It's the line's fault. I don't know if you have another quick anecdote and then finish, because I think some of us are having difficulty hearing everything you're saying.
You're right.
Right. Well, one thing I did do, in fact, it was in the Strand that one of my girls, during the time, one of the girls, we were quite busy and it was raining, and a gentleman stood there and there was a queue, and he said, "How long do I have to wait for to get served?" And this young lady, who was really a real Cockney, she was born Cockney, and she said, "Well, you'll just have to wait unless you're rich and famous." And he didn't say anything, and I was furious. I never thought staff would talk like that. And then when she came, when I said, "Well, can I help you?" He said, "No, I'll wait for this young lady. What's her name?" And I told him it was Kim. And he said, "I'll wait for her." And then after he went out, I said, "Do you know who you served?" And she said, "No." I said, "Well, you served Sean Connery, and you were very rude to him." And he came in a few times after that, and he would always ask for her to serve him. And on her birthday, he sent her flowers and sent her a photograph. He was very kind to her. So yeah, we had a lot of fun there. Yeah. So there we are.
Okay.
So that's my story.
Robert, thank you very much. It is a very interesting story. I've heard some of it before when you spoke to the group, when you visited us, when we were able to meet, and I remembered very well how interesting you were. There are only a few people here now, but you will be up on YouTube by tomorrow morning.
All right.
By tomorrow morning. And as I say, normally we get a lot of people to come in and view the talk afterwards. It's a great shame that a little bit of what you were saying towards the end wasn't clear, but that's the line. This is still, frankly, a modern miracle. How many of us in January of this year had heard of Zoom?
Yeah, no, that's quite right. Thank goodness we've got Zoom. That's the main thing.
Thank you very much. Bye.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Give
Okay.
regards to Lydia.
Thank you so much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. That's it.